I never mentioned to my son that I earned $45,000 every single month. He spent 33 years thinking I was just another office worker scraping by. When Ethan called asking me to meet his wife Sophia's family for the first time, I made a choice. I decided to walk into that fancy steakhouse dressed like I could barely afford rent, acting like a simple, broke, clueless mother. I wanted to see how they'd treat someone they thought had nothing. But what happened that night? Let me tell you, what unfolded destroyed Sophia's family in ways they never saw coming. And honestly, they deserved every single second of it. Let me back up and tell you who I really am. My son Ethan is 33 years old. To him, I've always been just Mom, the woman who left for work before sunrise, the woman who came home exhausted, the woman who shopped at discount grocery stores and wore the same winter coat for 10 years. Just another worker bee, nothing special. Maybe a clerk, maybe an assistant, someone ordinary earning an ordinary salary. And I never corrected that belief. Never once. The truth? I've been pulling in $45,000 monthly for the past 15 years. I'm the vice president of supply chain operations for a Fortune 500 manufacturing company. I negotiate contracts worth tens of millions. I oversee distribution across 7 states. I manage teams of over 200 people. I've turned around failing facilities and saved thousands of jobs. But why would I brag about that? Why would I hang my bank statements on the wall like trophies? I grew up in a generation where you earned respect through action, not through running your mouth about your paycheck. So I kept quiet. I lived in the same modest townhouse I bought 20 years ago. I drove my paid-off sedan until the odometer hit 200,000 miles. I bought clothes at outlet malls. I cooked meals at home. I saved everything, invested quietly, built wealth in complete silence. Because real power doesn't announce itself. Real power just is. And I was watching very carefully when Ethan called me that Thursday evening. His voice sounded weird, nervous, like when he was 7 and broke my favorite vase playing ball in the house. Mom, I gotta ask you something. What is it, honey? Sophia's parents are flying in from Denver. It's their first time meeting you. We're doing dinner Saturday night at this restaurant downtown. Nice place. Can you come? Something in his tone bothered me. It wasn't excitement. It wasn't warmth. It was anxiety. Like he was worried I'd embarrass him. Do they know anything about me? I asked carefully. Silence. Then Ethan cleared his throat. I told them you work in an office, that you live alone, that you're, simple, that you don't have much going on. There it was. That word, simple, like my entire existence could be summed up in one dismissive adjective. Like I was a problem he needed to apologize for before I even walked through the door. I took a slow, deep breath. Okay, Ethan, I'll be there. I hung up and looked around my living room. Comfortable but old furniture, blank walls, a small TV from 2015, nothing that screamed success, nothing impressive. And right then, I decided something. If my son thought I was poor, if Sophia's parents were coming ready to judge me, then I'd give them exactly what they expected. I'd play the part perfectly, a struggling mother barely getting by, clueless, desperate, poor. I wanted to see their true faces, how they'd treat someone they thought was beneath them. Because I had a feeling, a gut instinct. Sophia and her family seemed like the type who measured human worth by bank account balances, and my instincts are never wrong. Saturday came. I dressed in the absolute worst outfit I owned. A faded beige dress that looked like it came from a thrift store clearance rack. Cheap black flats with scuffed toes. No jewelry, not even a watch. I grabbed a worn canvas bag I'd gotten free at some conference years ago. I pulled my hair into a messy, unflattering bun. I looked in the mirror. I looked defeated, forgettable, broken, perfect. I called an Uber and gave the address. The driver's eyebrows went up when I told him. The Vintage Prime Steakhouse? That place is fancy, ma'am. Special occasion? Meeting my daughter-in-law's family, I replied quietly, playing the part. Oh, that's nice. He smiled, if only he knew. We pulled up to the restaurant. Warm golden lights. A valet stand. Well-dressed people walking in, laughing and talking. This was the kind of place where a steak cost more than some people's weekly grocery budget. I paid the driver, stepped out, smoothed my ugly dress, and walked through those doors. There they were. Ethan stood near a large table by the windows. He wore a sharp navy suit, crisp white shirt, and new leather shoes. He looked good, successful, but his face was tense, worried. Next to him stood Sophia. My daughter-in-law wore a gorgeous cream-colored dress that probably cost $600. Her dark hair fell in perfect waves, diamond studs in her ears. She looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine, but she wasn't smiling. She was glancing toward the entrance with this tight, uncomfortable expression. Then I saw them, Sophia's parents, already seated like royalty waiting for their subjects. The mother, Patricia, wore a fitted red dress covered in sparkles, gold necklace, gold bracelets, rings on multiple fingers. Her blonde hair was styled in an elaborate updo. She had that kind of sharp, calculated beauty that intimidates on purpose. Next to her sat Robert, her husband. Expensive gray suit, designer watch that probably cost more than my car, salt and pepper hair slicked back, cold, assessing eyes. They both looked like they'd just come from a yacht party. I walked toward them slowly, timidly, like someone not used to fancy places. Ethan saw me first. His eyes went wide. I watched him swallow hard. "Mom, you made it." His voice sounded strained, embarrassed. "Of course, sweetheart. I'm here." I smiled weakly. Sophia gave me a quick, cold kiss on the cheek. Barely made contact. "Mother Claire, good to see you." Her voice was polite but distant. She turned to her parents with this apologetic tone. "Mom? Dad, this is Ethan's mother, Claire." Patricia looked up. Her eyes scanned me from head to toe. I saw it immediately. The judgment, the disdain, the disappointment. She studied my wrinkled dress, my cheap shoes, my sad canvas bag. She didn't say anything at first. Just extended a limp hand. Pleasure. Cold. Quick. Dismissive. Robert did the same. Weak handshake. Fake smile. Charmed. I sat in the chair at the far end of the table. The worst seat. Furthest from everyone. Like a second-class guest. Nobody helped me pull out my chair. Nobody asked if I was comfortable. A waiter appeared with thick, elegant menus written in French and Italian. I opened mine and pretended to be confused. Squinting at the words, Patricia watched me with a thin smile. "Do you need help with the menu, Claire?" "Yes, please," I said softly. "I don't really understand these words," she sighed dramatically. "Let me order something simple for you, something economical. No need to go overboard." The phrase hung in the air like poison. Robert nodded. Ethan looked away. Sophia studied her napkin. Nobody said a word, and I just watched, observed, remembered everything. Patricia started the conversation talking about their flight from Denver. How exhausting first class was, how the champagne wasn't cold enough, how different everything was here. Then she smoothly shifted to money. She mentioned the boutique hotel they were staying at. "It's $800 a night, but when you want quality, you pay for it." She mentioned the luxury SUV they'd rented. "Only the best. We don't do economy." She mentioned shopping. "We picked up a few things. Just a couple thousand. Nothing major." She said all this while looking directly at me, waiting, expecting me to be impressed. I just nodded. "How lovely," I whispered. Patricia smiled that cold smile. "You know, Claire, Robert, and I have always believed in working hard and investing smart. That's why we have properties in Colorado, Arizona, and Florida. Robert built his dental practice from the ground up. Now he has 3 locations, and I manage our real estate portfolio." She paused for effect. "And you, Claire, what exactly do you do?" Her tone was sweet. Her intent was venom. "I work in an office," I replied, lowering my eyes. "I do paperwork, filing, data entry. Simple stuff." Patricia exchanged a look with Robert. A knowing superior look. "Oh, I see. Administrative work. Well, that's honest work. All jobs have dignity, right?" "Right," I murmured. The food arrived. Massive plates with tiny portions arranged like art. Patricia cut into her steak with precision. "This is $95, she announced. "But it's worth every penny. Quality matters. You can't just eat anything, can you?" I nodded. "You're absolutely right." Ethan tried changing the subject, talking about work. Patricia interrupted. "Ethan, does your mother live alone?" Ethan nodded. "Yeah, she has a small townhouse." Patricia turned to me with fake sympathy. "That must be so hard, Claire. Living alone at your age. No support. Does your salary cover everything? It must be tight." "The trap was closing. I manage," I said quietly. "I save where I can." I don't need much. Patricia sighed dramatically. Oh, Claire, you're so brave, truly. I admire women who struggle alone. Though, of course, one always wishes they could give their children more, a better foundation. But, well, everyone gives what they can. There it was, the subtle blade. The quiet accusation. She was telling me I wasn't enough, that I'd failed my son, that I was poor and insufficient. Sophia looked at her plate. Ethan clenched his jaw, and I just smiled sweetly. You're right. Everyone gives what they can, Patricia continued, gaining momentum. We made sure Sophia had the best of everything. Private schools, study abroad programs. She speaks through languages fluently. She has an MBA, and when she married Ethan, we helped them significantly. We gave them $50,000 for their down payment. We paid for their honeymoon in Italy, because that's what parents do when they can. They support their children. She looked directly at me. And you, Claire, were you able to help Ethan when he got married? Contribute anything? The question floated there like a knife. Not much, I replied. A small gift, what I could afford, Patricia smiled. How sweet. It's the thought that counts, right? Not the amount. And that's when I felt it. The cold rage starting to build inside me. Not explosive, not wild. Just cold, controlled, like ice forming over a deep river. I breathed slowly, kept the timid smile. Let Patricia keep talking, because that's what people like her do. They talk, they inflate, they show off. And the more they talk, the more they reveal exactly who they are. Patricia took a sip of expensive red wine, swirling it like a sommelier. This wine is from a private vineyard in Napa. It's $250 a bottle. But when you understand quality, you don't settle. Do you drink wine, Claire? Only cheap stuff, I said. On holidays. I don't know much about wine. Patricia's smile widened. Oh, don't worry. Not everyone has a refined palate. That comes with exposure, with travel, with education. Robert and I have toured vineyards in France, Italy, and California. We've learned quite a bit. Robert nodded proudly. It's a passion of ours. Sophia's learning too. She has excellent taste. She gets that from us. Sophia gave a weak smile. Patricia turned back to me. Do you have any hobbies, Claire? Anything you enjoy? I shrugged. I watch TV, I cook, walk around the neighborhood. Simple things. Patricia and Robert exchanged another loaded glance. How nice, Patricia said. Simple pleasures have their charm. Though, of course, one should always aspire to more. To culture, to growth, to experiencing the world. But I understand not everyone has those opportunities. I nodded. You're right. Not everyone does. The waiter brought dessert. Tiny artistic creations. Patricia ordered the most expensive option. $35 for a slice of cake, but it has gold flakes on top. See? Edible gold. Only the finest restaurants do this. I ate my simpler, cheaper dessert in silence. Then Patricia's expression changed. She became serious, almost motherly. Fake motherly. Claire, I think we need to have an honest family conversation. Ethan tensed. Mom, not now. Patricia raised her hand. Let me finish, Ethan. This is important. She looked at me. Claire, I understand you did your best with Ethan. Raising him alone couldn't have been easy. I respect that. But now Ethan's at a different stage. He's married. He has responsibilities. And Sophia and he deserve stability. Stability? I repeated softly. Yes, Patricia continued. Financial stability, emotional stability. We've helped them a lot, and will continue. But we also believe it's important that Ethan doesn't carry unnecessary burdens. She paused. Burdens like worrying constantly about a mother who's struggling financially. There it was, out in the open. She was calling me a burden. Sophia stared at her plate like she wanted to disappear. Ethan's jaw was locked tight. I see, I whispered. Patricia sighed. I don't want to sound harsh, Claire, but at your age, with limited income, living alone, it's natural for Ethan to worry, and we don't want that worry affecting his marriage. Do you understand? Perfectly, I replied. Patricia smiled. Good, I'm glad. That's why Robert and I have been discussing something. She paused dramatically. We'd like to help you, financially, a small monthly allowance so you can live more comfortably. So Ethan doesn't have to worry. She let that sink in. Nothing extravagant. Maybe $600 a month. And in exchange, we just ask that you give Ethan and Sophia space. Don't pressure them. Don't burden them. Let them build their life without... Interference. There it was. The bribe. Pay me off to disappear from my own son's life. Let Mom stop. Just stop. You don't have to listen to this. Patricia held up her hand. Ethan, calm down. We're having an adult conversation. Your mother understands. Right, Claire? I picked up my napkin, slowly wiped my lips, took a careful sip of water, let the silence grow. Everyone stared at me. Patricia with expectation, Robert with arrogance, Sophia with shame, Ethan with desperation. Then I spoke. My voice came out different. Not timid anymore, not small, not weak, firm, clear, cold as ice. That's a very interesting offer, Patricia. Truly generous of you. Patricia smiled victoriously. I'm so glad you see it that way, I nodded slowly. But I have a few questions. Just to understand clearly, Patricia blinked. Of course. Ask whatever you'd like. I leaned forward slightly. How much exactly would you consider appropriate? You said $600 a month for me to essentially disappear from my son's life? Patricia's smile faltered. I wouldn't phrase it quite like that. But that's exactly what you mean, I interrupted. $600 monthly, in exchange for me staying away from Ethan, not calling too much, not visiting, not being a burden. Patricia shifted in her seat. Claire, you're misunderstanding. Am I? My tone sharpened. Let me ask you something else. That $50,000 you gave for the house down payment, how generous was that moment for you? Did it feel good, powerful? Patricia frowned, confused. Well, yes. We love helping our daughter. And the Italian honeymoon? 15,000? Actually 18, Robert corrected proudly. 3 weeks. First-class flights. 5-star hotels. Incredible, I said. So you've invested roughly $68,000 into Ethan and Sophia's life together, Patricia nodded. When you love your children, you don't count the cost. You're absolutely right, I replied. When you truly love someone, you don't count the cost. But tell me something, Patricia. I paused. Did all that money buy you anything real? Did it buy genuine respect, authentic love, or did it just buy compliance? The atmosphere shifted. Patricia stopped smiling. Excuse me? My voice became sharper, clearer, stronger. You've spent this entire dinner talking about money. How much things cost, how much you've spent, how much you have. But you haven't asked me one single question about how I am. If I'm happy, if I'm healthy, if I need company, not money, company. Patricia went pale. I didn't mean, yes, I cut her off. Yes, you did. From the moment I walked through that door, you've been calculating my worth. And apparently, I'm worth $600 a month, Robert intervened. I think you're misreading my wife's intentions. I looked at him directly. Then what were her intentions? To pity me? To humiliate me throughout dinner? To offer me charity so I'd vanish? Robert opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Ethan was pale. Mom? Please? No, Ethan. No more please. I'm done being quiet. I placed my napkin on the table, sat back in my chair, my posture changed completely. No more hunching, no more shrinking. I sat up straight, confident, powerful. Patricia felt it. Everyone felt it. Patricia, you said something interesting earlier. You said you admire women who struggle alone, women who are brave. Patricia nodded hesitantly. Yes, I did say that. Let me ask you, have you ever struggled alone? Built something with your own 2 hands? Without your husband's support? Without family money backing you? Patricia stammered. I have my own achievements. Like what? I asked calmly. Tell me. Patricia adjusted her necklace. I manage our real estate investments. I oversee our properties. I make important financial decisions. Properties you bought together, I said. Investments made with money Robert generated. Decisions about wealth that already existed. Am I wrong? Robert's face reddened. That's not fair. My wife works just as hard. I'm sure she does, I interrupted. But there's a difference between managing money that already exists and creating it from nothing. Between overseeing an empire someone else built and building it yourself. Brick by brick, dollar by dollar. Don't you think? Patricia pressed her lips together. I don't know where you're going with this. Let me explain, I replied. I took a breath. 35 years ago, I was 22 years old. I was a receptionist at a small logistics company. I made $8 an hour. I lived in a studio apartment with roaches. I ate ramen noodles and day-old bread. Ethan stared at me. I'd never told him this. Not in detail. Then I got pregnant. The father disappeared. My family disowned me. I had to decide whether to give up or keep fighting? I paused. I chose to fight. Nobody spoke. I worked until the day before Ethan was born. I went back to work 10 days after he was born. A neighbor watched him during the day. I worked 12-hour shifts. I came home exhausted. I did it all over again the next day. Patricia was staring at the table now, but I didn't stay a receptionist. I studied at night, took community college courses, learned logistics software on my own time, taught myself inventory management, supply chain optimization, became an expert in things nobody taught me, all while raising a child alone, paying rent, buying diapers, keeping the lights on. I drank some water. Let the silence build. And you know what happened, Patricia? I climbed, slowly, painfully, from receptionist to office coordinator, from coordinator to logistics analyst, from analyst to operations manager, from manager to regional director, from director to vice president. Patricia looked up. Her arrogance was crumbling. It took me 20 years. 20 years of nonstop work, of sacrifices you can't imagine, but I did it. I leaned forward. And do you know how much I earn now? Patricia shook her head slowly. $45,000. Every single month. Absolute silence, like someone had sucked all the air out of the room. Ethan dropped his fork. It clattered on his plate. Sophia's eyes went huge. Robert frowned in disbelief. Patricia froze, mouth slightly open. 45,000, I repeated. Monthly, for the past 15 years. That's over $8 million in gross income. Not counting bonuses, not counting stock options, not counting my 401k that's worth over $2 million. Patricia blinked rapidly. No, that's not. You earn $45,000 a month? That's correct, I said calmly. I'm the vice president of supply chain operations for a Fortune 500 manufacturing company. I oversee distribution across 7 states. I manage budgets exceeding $300 million annually. I negotiate contracts with suppliers in 12 countries. I make decisions that affect over 2,000 employees. I paused. And I do it every single day. Ethan was white as paper. Mom, why didn't you ever tell me? I looked at him gently. Because you didn't need to know, sweetheart. I wanted you to grow up valuing hard work, not a trust fund. I wanted you to become independent, not entitled. Because money corrupts people. And I refused to let it corrupt you, Sophia whispered. But then, why do you live in that small townhouse? Why do you dress so simply? Why don't you drive a luxury car? I smiled. Because I don't need to impress anyone. Because real wealth doesn't require an audience. Because I learned that the more you have, the less you need to prove it. I turned to Patricia. That's why I came dressed like this tonight. That's why I pretended to be poor. Naive. Simple. I wanted to see exactly how you'd treat me if you thought I had nothing. I let that sink in. I wanted to see your true colors. And Patricia, I saw them perfectly. Patricia's face flushed red. Shame, rage, humiliation. This is ridiculous, she sputtered. If you made that kind of money, we'd know. Ethan would know. Why would he think you were struggling? Because I let him, I replied. Because I never talked about work at home. Because I live modestly. Because every dollar I earn, I invest. I save. I multiply. I don't waste it on flashy jewelry or showing off at expensive restaurants just to feel important. Robert cleared his throat. Even so, this doesn't change the fact that you deceived us. You acted in bad faith, really? I stared at him. I acted in bad faith when you called me a burden to my son? When you offered me $600 to disappear from Ethan's life? When you spent 2 hours making condescending comments about my clothes, my job, my life? Robert said nothing. Neither did Patricia. I stood up slowly. Everyone watched me. Let me tell you something nobody's apparently ever told you. Money doesn't buy class. It doesn't buy real education. It doesn't buy kindness. It doesn't buy character. I looked at both of them. You have money. Maybe quite a bit of it. But you don't have an ounce of what truly matters. Patricia stood up furious. And you do? You who lied? Who deceived us? Who made us look like fools? I didn't make you look like fools, I said coldly. You did that all by yourselves. I just gave you the opportunity to show who you really are, and you did it beautifully. Sophia had tears streaming down her face. Claire, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I know you didn't, I interrupted gently. But your parents knew exactly what they were doing. They knew they were humiliating me, and they enjoyed it. until they discovered the poor woman they were mocking has more money than they do. And now they don't know what to do with that information. Patricia trembled with rage. You have no right. I have every right, I shot back. Because I'm your son-in-law's mother. Because I deserve respect. Not because of my salary. Not because of my title. But because I'm a human being. Something you forgot throughout this entire dinner. Ethan stood up. Mom, let's just go, please. Not yet, I said. I'm not finished. I looked at Patricia one last time. You offered me $600 a month to help me out. Let me make you a counteroffer. Patricia's eyes narrowed. I'll write you a check for $1 million right now. If you can prove to me you've ever even once treated someone kindly who didn't have money. Patricia opened her mouth, closed it, said nothing. Exactly, I replied. You can't. Because to you, people are only worth what's in their bank account. And that's the difference between us. I built wealth. You just spend it. I earned respect. You try to buy it. I have dignity. You have credit cards. I reached into my old canvas bag, pulled out a sleek black card, American Express Centurion. Invitation only. I placed it on the table in front of Patricia. This is my personal card. No spending limit. Pay for the entire dinner. Leave a generous tip. Consider it a gift from a simple, broke, naive mother. Patricia stared at the card like it was a snake. Black titanium. My name engraved in silver. Claire Sterling, VP Operations. Her hand shook as she picked it up. She turned it over, studied it, then looked at me. Her eyes no longer held superiority. Now there was something else. Fear. I don't need your charity, she said, voice breaking. I know, I replied, but I didn't need your pity either. And yet you served it to me all night long. So take it as a lesson in manners. Something you clearly didn't learn despite all those trips to Europe. Robert slapped the table lightly. Enough. This is completely out of control. You're being disrespectful. Respect? I repeated. Interesting that you use that word now. Where was your respect when Patricia asked if my salary covered my bills? Where was it when she suggested I was dragging Ethan down? Where was it when she offered to pay me off like some problem to be solved? Robert clenched his jaw. Patricia just stared. I looked at Sophia. Her head was down, hands shaking in her lap. Sophia, I said softly. She looked up, tears on her cheeks. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I didn't know that my parents would. Don't finish that sentence, I interrupted. Because you did know. Maybe not about my money, but you knew how your parents treat people they consider beneath them. And you said nothing to stop it, Sophia sobbed. They're my parents. I wanted to say something, but I know, I said. And Ethan is my son. Yet I let him make his own choices, his own life, his own mistakes. Because that's how you love someone. With freedom, not control, not money, not manipulation. Ethan came to me. Mom, forgive me, please. I'm so sorry for assuming, for never asking, for thinking you were. His voice cracked. I hugged him tight. You have nothing to apologize for, sweetheart. I did what I did for a reason. I wanted you independent, strong. I wanted you to value the right things. Ethan held me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Patricia was still standing, rigid, watching with confusion and contained fury. This doesn't change anything, she finally said. You lied. You came here with hidden intentions. That's true, I nodded. I did, exactly like you do every single day. What's that supposed to mean? Robert demanded. It means you hide behind your money, behind your vacations, behind everything you can buy. But inside, you're empty. You have nothing to offer beyond a bank statement. Patricia gave a bitter laugh. Coming from someone who lied all night, that's hypocrisy. Perhaps, I replied. But my lie exposed the truth. Your truth, and now you can't hide it. Now you know that I saw everything. I felt every insult, and I'll never forget. The waiter approached timidly. Excuse me, would you like anything else? Or just the check? Robert waved him off. Just the check. The waiter nodded and disappeared. Patricia sat back down heavily, her posture defeated. She'd lost something tonight. Not money, power, Claire, she said quietly. I don't want this to ruin our family's relationship. Ethan and Sophia love each other. We can't let this what? I interrupted. Let this expose what you really think? It's too late, Patricia. The damage is done. But we can start over, she insisted. We can move past this. No, I said firmly. We can't, because now I know who you are, and you know who I am. And that truth can't be erased. Robert cleared his throat. You provoked this entire situation. You walked in here lying. You're right, I agreed. I did, because I needed to know. I needed to confirm what I suspected. That you're not good people. That your money hasn't made you better. That you're exactly the kind of people who despise others for not having the same things you do. Patricia wiped a tear. We're not bad people. Maybe not, I replied. But you're not good either. And there's a world of difference between those two things. The waiter returned with the check. Left it in the center of the table. Nobody touched it. Patricia looked at my black card still in her hand. Then at me. I'm not using your card, she said. We'll pay our own bill, like we always do. Perfect, I replied. Then keep that card as a souvenir, as a reminder that appearances can be deceiving, that the woman you mocked all night has more than you'll ever have. And I'm not just talking about money. Patricia put the card on the table. I don't want it. I don't want your moral lecture, I pushed it back. Keep it anyway, because someday you'll meet someone else like me, someone pretending to be less than they are, and you'll make the same mistake again, because people like you never learn. Robert pulled out his wallet, selected a gold credit card, put it on the check. The waiter took it and left. The waiting minutes were thick with uncomfortable silence. Sophia cried quietly. Ethan held my hand. Patricia stared at the wall. Robert checked his phone to avoid eye contact. The waiter returned. Sir, I'm sorry. Your card was declined. Robert looked up sharply. What? That's impossible. Declined, sir. Do you have another form of payment? Robert turned red. That card has a $50,000 limit. Run it again. It must be an error. The waiter took the card again. Left. Patricia looked nervously at Robert. What's happening? I don't know, Robert said, irritated. Probably a security freeze. It happens when you travel sometimes. I nodded sympathetically. Of course. How inconvenient. The waiter returned again. I'm very sorry, sir. Declined again. Robert stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. I'm calling the bank. He stormed outside. Patricia sat there, humiliated. This has never happened. Never. Technology can be so unreliable, I said without emotion. Ethan looked at the check. Mom, I can— No, I stopped him. You're not paying. I pulled out my simple wallet. Removed another card. This one was different, transparent, heavy metal. A card less than 1% of people possess. I placed it in front of Patricia. She looked at it. Her eyes widened. She recognized it. That's a Centurion. Correct, I said. American Express invitation only. Requires $250,000 in annual spending to maintain. $5,000 yearly fee just to hold it. Benefits you can't even imagine. Patricia said nothing. The waiter took the card carefully, like it was sacred. He returned in under 2 minutes. Thank you, Ms. Sterling. Everything's taken care of. Would you like the receipt? Not necessary, I replied. The waiter nodded and left. I stood up. Took my wallet, my canvas bag, looked at Patricia one final time. Dinner was delicious. Thank you for recommending this place. And thank you for showing me exactly who you are. You saved me years of wondering. Patricia finally looked up. Her eyes red, not from tears. From rage! This isn't over, she said, voice shaking. Sophia is our daughter. Ethan is our son-in-law. We're still family. You'll have to see us again. You're right, I smiled. At birthdays, holidays, family gatherings. But now I'll see you differently. I'll know exactly what you think of people you consider beneath you. And you'll know that I know. And you'll have to live with that. I turned to Sophia. Sophia, you're not responsible for your parents. Nobody chooses their family. But you do choose how you act, how you treat others, how you'll raise your own children someday. Remember that. Sophia nodded through tears. I headed for the exit. Took a few steps, then stopped and turned. Oh, Patricia. One more thing. She looked at me. You mentioned you speak 3 languages fluently? Patricia frowned. What does that have to do with anything? Just curious, I replied. In which of those 3 languages did you learn kindness? Because clearly it wasn't in any of them. Patricia's mouth opened. No words came out. Exactly, I said. You can speak 100 languages and still have nothing worth saying. I walked out into the cool night air. Ethan walked beside me. I breathed deeply. Felt lighter, like a weight had been lifted. Not a physical weight, an emotional one, the weight of pretending, of tolerating, of staying silent. Mom, Ethan took my arm. Are you okay? Perfectly fine, I replied. Better than I've been in years. Ethan and I stood outside the restaurant. The city lights sparkled around us. People walked by, laughing, living their lives. Mom, Ethan said quietly, I don't even know what to say. I feel like I've been blind my whole life. You weren't blind, honey. You just saw what I wanted you to see. He shook his head. All those years, you could have lived in a mansion, driven a Mercedes, traveled the world. But you chose that townhouse, that old car. You chose simplicity. I chose peace, I corrected. I chose freedom. Because when you don't need to impress anyone, you're finally free. Ethan pulled me into another hug. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so sorry I let them treat you that way. Stop apologizing, I said firmly. You didn't know. And now you do. That's what matters. A taxi pulled up. I'd called it while we were walking out. Mom, let me drive you home, Ethan offered. No, sweetheart. You need to go back in there. Talk to Sophia. She needs you right now. Ethan looked torn. But go, I insisted. Have the hard conversations. Set your boundaries. Build your marriage on honesty, not on your in-laws' money. He nodded slowly. Okay, but Mom? Can we have breakfast tomorrow? Just us? I want to hear everything. Your whole story. I smiled. I'd love that. I got into the taxi. Rolled down the window. Ethan? Yeah, Mom? I love you. Exactly as you are. You don't need to prove anything to me. You never did. His eyes filled with tears. I love you too. The taxi pulled away. I watched him in the side mirror, standing there, processing everything, growing up right before my eyes. The next morning, Ethan showed up at my townhouse at 9 a.m. sharp. He brought bagels, cream cheese, and coffee from our favorite diner. We sat at my small kitchen table, the same table where he'd done his homework as a kid. Okay, he said. Tell me everything. From the beginning. So I did. I told him about the struggles, the early years, the discrimination I faced as a single mother in the corporate world, the nights I cried from exhaustion, the times I almost gave up, but also the victories, the promotions, the major contracts I closed, the teams I built, the respect I earned. Ethan listened to everything. Not interrupting, just listening. When I finished, he sat back in his chair. You're a warrior, Mom. An absolute warrior. I'm just a woman who refused to quit, I replied. That's all? No, Ethan said firmly. You're so much more than that. And I promise you, I'm going to make you proud. I'm going to live differently, better. You already make me proud, I told him. He smiled. Then his expression got serious. Mom, I need to tell you what happened after you left last night. Go ahead. Ethan took a deep breath. I went back inside. Patricia and Robert were still there, waiting for Robert's card to work. He was on the phone with his bank, furious. Sophia was crying, and I told them we needed to talk, all of us. Right there. I sipped my coffee, listening. I told Patricia and Robert that their behavior was unacceptable, that they'd treated you like garbage, that I was ashamed of how they acted, that it would never happen again. How'd they respond? Ethan shook his head. Patricia tried to defend herself, said they were just being protective, that they didn't have bad intentions. Robert said you manipulated the whole situation to make them look bad. I laughed dryly. Of course they did. But then Sophia spoke up. Ethan continued. She told her parents they were wrong, that she'd watched them humiliate you, that she was embarrassed to be their daughter in that moment. My eyebrows raised. Really? Really, Ethan confirmed. Patricia lost it, started yelling that Sophia was ungrateful, that they'd given her everything, that she had no right to judge them. Typical. That's when I drew the line, Ethan said. I told them that Sophia and I are setting boundaries. We love them, but we won't tolerate disrespect toward our family, toward you. And if they can't accept that, they'll have to accept distance. I reached across and squeezed his hand. I'm proud of you. They didn't take it well, Ethan admitted. They left angry, said we'd regret it. Patricia said we were choosing the wrong side. Robert said we were throwing away our future. Emotional blackmail, I said. The last weapon of people without real arguments. Exactly what Sophia said. Ethan smiled. Mom, she's changing. I can see it. Last night opened her eyes. Good, I replied. She's not her parents. She can be better. Ethan nodded. She wants to come see you. To apologize properly? Would that be okay? I thought about it. Tell her to give it a week. Let her think about what she really wants to say. Rushed apologies don't mean much. I'll tell her. We finished breakfast talking about everything: work, life, his plans for the future, and for the first time in years, there were no secrets between us, just honesty, just love. 10 days later, Sophia came to my townhouse. She arrived without makeup, hair in a simple ponytail, jeans and a sweater, no designer labels visible. She looked real, vulnerable, different. "Claire," she said at the door, "thank you for seeing me." "Come in, Sophia." We sat in my living room. I made tea. "I've been thinking nonstop about that dinner," Sophia began. "About everything my parents said, everything they did, and everything I didn't do." I waited. "I should have stopped them," she continued, voice cracking. "I should have defended you, but I've spent my whole life staying quiet, letting them control everything, because that's what they taught me, that obedience equals love." "You were raised that way," I said gently. "That's not your fault." "But staying that way is my choice," Sophia replied. "And I don't want to be like them. I don't want to measure people by their bank accounts. I don't want to treat others like they're beneath me. I want to be better." I looked at her carefully. "What changed?" "You," Sophia said simply. "Watching you that night. How you handled everything. You had every reason to explode, to be cruel, to embarrass them. But you stayed calm, strong, dignified. You didn't need to yell to be powerful. And I realized that's real strength. That's who I want to be," I smiled. "That's a good start, Sophia." She wiped her eyes. "My parents and I aren't speaking right now. They're furious with Ethan and me. They said we're making the biggest mistake of our lives. How do you feel about that?" Sophia took a deep breath. "Honestly, relieved. For the first time, I'm making my own choices, living by my own values. And it feels incredible." "That's growth," I told her. "Real growth. Claire, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Will you teach me? Not about money or business, but about how to live with integrity, how to be strong without being cruel, how to be wealthy without being arrogant. Because I want to raise my kids differently someday. And I need to learn how." I set down my tea, looked at her directly. "Sophia, I can't teach you that. That comes from living, from making mistakes, from choosing your values every single day. But I can tell you this, always ask yourself before any decision, is this who I want to be? If the answer is no, choose differently." Sophia nodded, absorbing every word. "And your parents?" I asked. "What happens with them?" "Ethan and I set clear boundaries," Sophia replied. "They're welcome in our lives if they can be respectful, if they can treat people with kindness regardless of their bank accounts. If they can't do that, then we'll keep our distance." "That's fair," I said. "And brave." Sophia smiled sadly. I learned from the best. We talked for 2 more hours. About life, about marriage, about finding your own path. When she left, she hugged me tight. "Thank you, Claire, for everything." "You're welcome, sweetheart. You're going to be just fine." And I meant it. 6 months passed. Beautiful, peaceful months. Ethan and I had breakfast together every Sunday. He asked questions about my career, my investments, my life. We talked about everything. Sophia joined us most weeks. She'd started volunteering at a women's shelter, teaching job skills. She was finding her purpose beyond her parents' expectations. And Patricia and Robert? They eventually reached out. Stiff, formal messages at first. Then a request to meet. We met at a quiet coffee shop. Neutral ground. Patricia and Robert looked different. Less polished. More uncertain. "Claire," Patricia began, "we owe you an apology." I waited. "We were wrong," Robert continued. "About how we treated you. About how we judged you. It was cruel and unfair." Patricia nodded. "We've done a lot of thinking. About why we act the way we do. About the values we're passing on. And we don't like what we saw." "We're not perfect," Robert added. "We probably never will be, but we want to try to be better. If you'll give us that chance." I looked at both of them. Saw something I hadn't seen before. Humility. "I appreciate that," I said carefully. "But words are easy. Actions matter. If you want to be part of this family, you need to show respect. Consistently, not just to me. To everyone." "We understand," Patricia said. "And we'll prove it." I nodded. "Then we'll take it slow, one step at a time." It wasn't perfect forgiveness. It wasn't instant trust, but it was a beginning. A year after that dinner, Ethan and Sophia announced they were expecting a baby. We all celebrated together. Even Patricia and Robert, who'd slowly been rebuilding their relationships with everyone. They were different now, quieter, more thoughtful. They still had money, but they'd stopped using it as a weapon. Progress. The day Sophia gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, we all gathered at the hospital. Patricia held her granddaughter with tears in her eyes. "She's perfect," she whispered. "She is," I agreed. Ethan put his arm around me. "Mom, Sophia and I decided on a name." "What is it?" "Claire," Sophia said softly. "We're naming her Claire, after the strongest woman we know." I felt tears rolling down my face. "Happy tears. Are you sure?" I asked. "Absolutely sure," Ethan replied. "We want her to grow up knowing her grandmother's story, knowing that real strength comes from within, that kindness matters more than money, that integrity is everything." I held my granddaughter for the first time, looked into her tiny, perfect face. "Welcome to the world, little Claire," I whispered. "You're gonna do amazing things." That night, I went home to my simple townhouse. I sat by the window with tea, looking out at the city lights, and I smiled, because I had everything I'd ever wanted. Not money, not status, not power, love, family, peace, authenticity. My son knew who I really was. My daughter-in-law was becoming her best self. My granddaughter would grow up with the right values. And me? I was finally, completely, genuinely happy. Not because I'd proven anything to anyone, but because I'd stayed true to myself. And in the end, that was the greatest wealth of all. The end. What did you think of Claire's story? Which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you love this story, you can support the channel by hitting that like button and subscribing for more incredible life stories. There are so many more amazing tales waiting for you on the channel. See you in the next story. With love and respect.